Hey everyone, I had a brainwave, so I wanted to pop in here quickly to see what you guys think. The question is the Mandela effect actually a psyop to cover up something else? Now, there's a lot of sort of rumors spreading again, videos spreading again about Mandela, that he really died in prison, that it's not really him that we saw, making all those speeches. When he came out of prison, basically, the rumor is that it was a different guy. There was a lot of rumors around this, and it's kind of increasing at the moment. Even his wife at the time, Winnie Mandela, said, well, she wanted to divorce him because he had a different shoe size when he came out of jail. Okay, so clearly that wasn't him anymore. So she wanted to divorce him. It wasn't the man that she married, and she did divorce him. Now, remember also there's something called the Mandela effect. Now, it was a term that was coined because many people believe that Mandela died in the 80s. That's what they remembered. And then suddenly things changed, and people were saying, no, he didn't die. And he died, somewhere in the 2000s. I forgot the exact year, but it was after 2000, the year 2000, that he supposedly died. So that term was coined then as the Mandela effect, meaning sometimes there's glitches in time and space. You may remember one thing, but then when you look back in the history or when you check it on Google, it's something completely different. It even happens with like packaging, like cereal packaging, cookies. People distinctly remember one thing, like a name of a brand or the way the logo was structured, whether there was a little crown on the head of the little animal of a cereal box or not. So these are kind of discrepancies keep coming up, and the term was coined the Mandela effect. Now, I'm of the belief that this term was coined to cover up something else. I believe the alphabet agencies, the three-letter agencies, the CIA, the FBI, MI6, all these agencies, the news spread when Mandela died. They wanted to cover that up, okay? So they created this term, the Mandela effect, to basically cover this up and to start proliferating the idea that he never died, and that there was a perfectly good explanation for the fact that some people remembered him dying. Funny enough, I was quite young when he supposedly died in prison, according to many people. I was probably about 12 years old or something, and I don't really remember that, and I don't really remember many people in South Africa remembering that. It seems it was more people in the US, which was interesting as well, because it seems that somehow the news leaked that he died, but not all the media picked up on this. Maybe some of the media in the US or international media picked this up, but then they were very quickly quashed, and the news got buried, basically. And it's as if it never happened. Some people only believe things when they see it on CNN. Well, that's exactly what happened here. So the media just changed their tune, changed their narrative, and it was as if he never died. So, for the three-letter agencies, it was quite something to reveal a timeline glitch. Under normal circumstances, that is not information that they'd want us to know. Okay, but sometimes you have to sacrifice something for the greater good, for the way they see it. Give them a little nugget of information that's going to keep them so busy, keep them so entranced about timeline glitches that they forget what was being covered up in the process. So I believe this is what happened with Mandela. There was many reasons that they wanted for him to be alive. He was the ideal candidate to lead the country into liberation. But all it really was the banksters ran out of money, okay? So they needed to bring the black African population into the fray, make sure they all got registered, they all got birth certificates, because this is how countries are funded. So there was a couple of million people then that could be bringing into the birth certificate fraud, basically, where when you sign the birth certificate as a parent, you actually sign that child over to the government. That child gets securitized and traded on the stock exchange, and that's where government credit comes from. So when they say your government is in debt, $20 billion in debt, whatever it is, they actually owe that money to us, we the people. Okay, they actually loaned that money from us, we the people, our blood, sweat, and tears. I'm not going to get into the whole straw man thing now because it's a whole nother discussion. Many of you already know the straw man story, where it came from, and why we are all worth billions and millions of dollars. But just to suffice to say, that was the reason why the powers that be, the Rothschilds, the reptilian royalty wanted to conquer South Africa and basically stage a liberation that was never really going to be a liberation, unfortunately, for the black people, because all they wanted to do is get these birth certificates registered, because they couldn't really control that population otherwise, without liberating them, without saying, okay, you guys are liberated now, you're going to bring you into the system, you're going to get a birth certificate, you're going to get education, you're going to get jobs, you're going to get, part of the abundance of this country. Sadly, that never happened. This country is in a worse state than it was during apartheid. It really is. And I'm not justifying apartheid because it's horrendous to begin with. But unfortunately, it was part of one big psyop to make our African brothers and sisters feel like they have been liberated, but they were never liberated. And it doesn't help to look back onto, the white South Africans or the white apartheid government, because they were just puppets. Yes, they were sellouts. They were absolute horrific sellouts for money and greed and power. But there were other controllers pulling those strings and paying them, okay? These were the Rothschilds, more popular, or more sort of, a better term for them is actually the Khazarian mafia, okay? These Satanists are actually not really human, and they've been trying to control the African continent for the longest time. Africa is much bigger than it's reported on the world maps, number one. Number two, South Africa is one of the richest countries in the world with all its resources, gold, diamonds, platinum, you name it. We are incredibly wealthy, and it also meant they could steal all the gold and diamonds from this country. It was South Africa that bailed out the banks in, I think it was in the 80s or the 90s. There was a big crash happening in the US, which is also the Khazarian mafia banks, basically. So South Africa bailed them out, but you won't find that on any article or any information. Basically, they very slowly but cleverly stole all the gold and sent it to the US. All of the apartheid government was in on that at the time, to be honest. Ministers, president of our country. It was not a singular thing. It was a whole operation. I think it was called Operation Hammer, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, so what I just basically wanted to say today is the whole term, the Mandela effect. You can Google it if you're not familiar with it. It is a well-known term that refers to a glitch in time and space. And it does exist. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but it was the alphabet agencies throwing us a little bone that we were gonna go crazy about and investigate, and we could just not get enough of going down that rabbit hole. Meanwhile, it was actually covering up something completely different, which was the death of Nelson Mandela. Because South Africa is a very important part in the global puzzle. We have funded many, 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 many different countries, not just the US. And we've been pillaged and raped and stripped of most of our riches for so long. The good news is that all of this is coming to an end. You can see with this story coming into the narrative again, people are spreading these videos, people are making videos about it, that it's time for disclosure. And this information, most likely is going to be declassified now, and the real story is going to come out. The question is, how are South Africans going to handle this? It's time to face the truth. We've been lied to for a very long time. We've been used and abused for a very long time. But the fact of the matter is, it's pointless pointing fingers all the time. We must get out of victimhood now. We must not give these guys further power or further attention. Let's actually just pull away.